I was supposed to be the villain in this story, but I just wasn't turning evil fast enough. So the system got impatient and gave me this twisted power called mean words come true. The system told me, every nasty thing people say about you will become reality. If someone calls you stupid, you'll become stupid. If they say you'll turn into a roach, you'll literally become one that can be squashed with single slap. Then the system went offline to recharge, leaving me completely screwed. I was in the bathroom stall when I heard Emma's voice outside. That which Sarah thinks she has a chance with. Alex, or school's top student. Even if she gets first place on every monthly exam, Alex will never look at her. I clenched my fists, terrified Emma would call me a sewer rat next. That's when I heard the mechanical voice in my head. Detected someone speaking. Yell of the host, truth system activated. After the system kicked in, I just gave up. I threw away my vocabulary books, stopped doing practice problems, and waited for my doom. What was the point? No matter how hard I tried, Alex would never like me anyway. But then exam day came. I was flipping through the test paper, and my eyes went wide. Every vocabulary word was one I'd studied. Every problem was one I practiced before. My brain was confused, but my hands smoothly finished the entire test. I even turned it in early. For the first time ever, this was the lowest ranked exam room, where students regularly turned in blank papers. Didn't even look up when I handed mine it. When I walked out, I was the first one done. The hallway was completely empty. I sat on a bench outside the school store, still not believing what just happened. Soon after, Alex came out too. He always dominated first place and often finished early. Emma, the eternal second place, followed right behind him, seeing me finish before them. Emma laughed mockingly. Oh, Sarah, this is a monthly exam. Even if you can't do the problems, you shouldn't just give up like that. Alex looked at me with disgust written all over his face. When I tried to explain, he coldly looked away and left for his next exam, leaving me with just the wind from his jacket. After the exam, somehow our homeroom teacher, Mr. Johnson, found out I turned in early. Some students, and during exams, they won't even pretend to try. That hour after turning in early, who knows where they went to mess around. He kept glancing at me while I shifted uncomfortably in my seat. But I'd finished everything. My paper was completely filled out. Turning in early shouldn't be a problem, right? A few days later, the results came out. I automatically started looking from the bottom of the rankings for my name, but thinking I might have done okay this time, I decided to start from the middle and work down. I looked all the way to 10th from last and still didn't see my name. Seriously, I answered every question and still bombed that badly. Suddenly, someone screamed, "The top student isn't first place." I was shocked too. This was the first time Alex had fallen from the top. I wondered who could be first. Emma finally overthrew him. Then that person's voice got so shrill it nearly burst my eardrums. First place is someone named Sarah. Who the heck is Sarah? I froze. Then looked directly at the top of the result sheet. My name was right there, at number 1. I felt more and more eyes turning toward me. That's Sarah. She looks so ordinary. Wait, was she even in our class before? Don't you remember? She's the one who shamelessly threw herself at our top student. Suddenly, there was empty space around me. All the students who'd been crowding around the results scattered, forming a circle with me in the center. Some were shocked, some pointed at me in disbelief. Some had fainted and were being revived. Then someone rushed over and shoved me aside. Emma went crazy, tearing the results sheet to pieces. I don't believe it. I don't believe I'm third. I lost to that nobody. I hit the ground hard, scraping my elbow on the edge of the podium. Blood was flowing and it hurt like heck. My joy from discovering I've gotten first place instantly vanished. As I tried to quietly get up, I saw a pair of lean white sneakers appear in front of me. It was Alex. I knew everything about him by heart. When I looked out, his expression was complicated, and his hand was stretched out toward me. Was he feeling sorry for me? Trying to help me out, I thought. Maybe that awful system wasn't so reliable after all. Maybe this was where my story with Alex would fly. Finally, began just as my heart filled with bittersweet emotions. And I prepared to take his hand. He said, "You cheated. Didn't you give me your cheat sheet? I'll turn it into the teacher, so they can deal with you appropriately. After all, this is your first offense." It was like a bucket of ice water dumped over my head. So this was the system's power. Mean words come true, Emma said. Even if I got first place, Alex would still look down on me. I'd gotten first, and Alex indeed still despised me. I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. This was a supporting character's fate. There was no escaping it. But where was I supposed to get a non-existent cheat sheet? I didn't cheat. The problems on this exam were just ones I'd studied before. I told Alex the truth, but he impatiently interrupted. What are the odds of that? You nearly got a perfect score. Confess now, and I'll count it as turning yourself in. Lying like this means he turned and walked away. brushing his hands as if almost touching me had dirt them. I realized for the first time that he looked kind of mean when angry, but I hadn't done anything wrong. So I hadn't done anything wrong. Within half an hour, our homeroom teacher called me to the office, which was packed with teachers, including the grade director. A student reported that you used improper methods to get your score on this exam. I laughed at myself. I've been invisible since starting school. And this was the first time these important people had noticed me. Mr. Johnson, I know you don't like me, but no matter who's been whispering in your ear, I can say with complete confidence that I didn't cheat. I refuse to admit it. Making Mr. Johnson slam his hand on the desk. What are you saying? I treat every student equally. You're just incorrigible. The guidance counselor gently tried to persuade me. If you admit it now, we won't make it public. Just write a private apology letter and improve in the future. Mr. Johnson, still angry, added, I didn't saw you with a cheat sheet with their own eyes. And you still won't admit it. Keep being stubborn now. But when we pull up the security footage and have solid evidence, we'll see if you know shame. At your age, I stuck my neck out. After being timid for over 10 years, I suddenly wanted to be brave for myself once. I'm not wrong, I'm not lying. I didn't cheat. Someone's falsely accusing me. Make her come face me. The guidance counselor sipped tea from her thermos and shook her head. Why make this so difficult? When this gets announced school-wide, it won't look good for a young girl like you. Mr. Johnson was about to agree when she put down her thermos and looked toward the office door. But since Sarah insists, bring in the witness. 5 minutes later, Emma started incompetently. Did you really report Sarah for cheating? Emma glanced at me dismissively and said smugly, of course it's true, I saw it with my own eyes. Mr. Johnson looked at his star student with satisfaction and nodded approvingly. What else do you have to say? I stayed quiet for a moment, then turned around and stared at Emma like a ghost. You're always second place in the top exam room, while I'm in the 13th room. Opposite ends. How exactly did you see me cheat, Emma? She looked down on me and assumed I must have cheated. She believed so strongly in her own fantasy that to make it real, Emma even suggested checking security footage. She lied to Mr. Johnson about witnessing me with a cheat sheet, just to make her report more credible. She never expected me to easily point out the flaw in her story. Mr. Johnson must have had serious prejudice against me to go along with her obvious lie. The guidance counselor chuckled softly. That's a good point. Her validation made Emma even more panicked. Just a sweat poured down her face, and she couldn't find words to argue back. A clear male voice spoke from behind me. I can testify, Emma. You saw Sarah hiding a cheat sheet when you went to the bathroom before the exam, right? I saw it too. It was Alex. The office fell dead silent. I slowly turned around. Alex stood in the doorway, his posture perfect, his uniform immaculate. His eyes met mine, and there wasn't a shred of hesitation in them. He looked like a knight stepping in to slay a dragon, except I was the dragon, and his sword was a blatant, filthy lie. You saw me? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. You saw me with a cheat sheet in the bathroom. I was walking past the hallway, Alex said smoothly, stepping into the room and standing next to Emma. Their shoulders brushed. A united front. The door was propped open. I saw you stuffing a piece of paper into your sleeve. I didn't want to say anything because I felt bad for you, Sarah. But seeing you drag Emma down for your own mistakes, I can't stay quiet. Emma looked up at him, her eyes shining with manufactured tears of gratitude. Mr. Johnson let out a heavy sigh of relief, the kind a man makes when his worldview is validated. Well, Mr. Johnson said, tapping his pen, there we have it. 2 witnesses. The top 2 students in the school, no less. I stared at Alex. All those years I spent staring at the back of his head in class, memorizing the way his hair fell, hoping he'd just glance my way. It all evaporated. The affection didn't just die, it rotted on the spot, turning into something cold and sharp. He didn't despise me because I was ordinary. He despised me because I threatened his ecosystem. Mr. Johnson, the guidance counselor, Ms. Davis, suddenly spoke up. Her thermos clicked quietly as she set it down. Alex is a boy. Sarah and Emma are girls. Why was Alex looking into the girls' bathroom? Alex's jaw tightened. Like I said, the door was propped open. And you saw her stuffing paper into her sleeve, Ms. Davis continued, her tone conversational. She looked at me. Sarah, what are you wearing today? Everyone looked at my clothes. I was wearing the standard summer uniform, a short-sleeved blouse. Emma's breath hitched. Alex's eyes flickered, realizing his mistake a second too late. Maybe she stuffed it in her pocket, Emma blurted out, her voice pitching up again. She's lying. She's a liar. Even if we check the cameras, even if we strip search her right now, she probably flushed it. She's a manipulative freak who would probably memorize the answers just to pretend she didn't cheat. I felt a sudden, Familiar coldness at the base of my skull. Host truth system activated. Analyzing verbal input. Condition even if we check the cameras. Condition even if we strip search her. Condition, she probably memorized the answers just to pretend she didn't cheat. Executing nasty premise. My brain flooded with an agonizing spike of heat. It was like a hard drive being forcibly overwritten. I gasped, clutching my head for a fraction of a second. But then it passed. When I blinked, the world looked sharper. I finally understood the system's glitch. The system was supposed to punish me by making nasty words come true. But Emma didn't just call me stupid. She used conditional insults. To fulfill her insult, that I only memorized the answers to pretend I didn't cheat, the system had to literally give me the memory of the answer key. To make her insult about the cameras true, the system had to manipulate reality so the cameras supported her premise. If they wanted me to be the villain, I was going to be the most terrifying villain this school had ever seen. I let out a low, humorless laugh. It sounded foreign, even to me. "You're right, Emma," I said, stepping forward. I held out my arms. "Search my pockets. Search my desk. Search the trash cans in the bathroom. And Mr. Johnson? Pull the security footage for the second-floor hallway." Mr. Johnson scowled. "I don't need to waste my time. Pull the footage, David. MS." Davis said sharply, dropping the polite Mr. Johnson act. "Now." Reluctantly, Mr. Johnson logged into the school's security portal on his desktop. We all crowded around the monitor. He fast-forwarded to the 20 minutes before the exam. There I was, walking into the bathroom. 2 minutes later, I walked out, empty-handed. 7 minutes after I was completely gone from the hallway, Emma walked into the bathroom. Alex never walked down that hallway at all. The silence in the office was deafening. "Well," Ms. Davis said softly, "that is quite the optical illusion, Alex. Seeing through walls and across time." Alex's face turned an ugly, mottled red. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Emma physically backed away from the monitor, shaking her head. "No, the timestamp is wrong. It has to be wrong. She hacked it." "I hacked a closed-circuit security system while sitting in an exam room?" I asked, tilting my head. "Am I a criminal mastermind, Emma? Or am I a stupid nobody? Pick a lane." Mr. Johnson was sweating now. Falsely accusing a student was bad, but catching his 2-star pupils in a coordinated, malicious lie was a career nightmare. "Look," he stammered, "the footage is inconclusive. But the fact remains, Sarah's leap in grades is statistically impossible. I have 20 years of teaching experience. A student doesn't go from the bottom 10 to a perfect score overnight." He looked at me, desperate to salvage his pride. "Confess to buying the leaked test, Sarah. It's the only logical explanation." I looked at Mr. Johnson, then at Alex, who was glaring at me with pure, unadulterated hatred. His perfect reputation was cracking, and he blamed me for it. I needed to push them further. I needed them to speak. "I didn't buy anything," I said calmly. "I'm just smarter than him." I pointed right at Alex's chest. "He's slow. He's rigid. And you're all so used to praising him that you can't recognize actual genius when it sits in your classroom." It was a blatant provocation, and it worked flawlessly. Alex snapped. The facade of the polite gentleman shattered completely. "Smarter than me?" he snarled, stepping into my personal space. "You're garbage. You've always been garbage. Even if Mr. Johnson printed out the National Math Olympiad qualifier right now, a test you couldn't possibly have seen, and you took it under our noses, you'd still just be a pathetic fraud who got lucky once." Checkmate. Host truth system activated. Analyzing verbal input. Condition, even if Mr. Johnson printed out the National Math Olympiad qualifier right now. Condition, and you took it under our noses. Nasty premise. You'd still just be a pathetic fraud. Executing conditional requirements to fulfill premise. Knowledge hit me like a freight train. Not just vocabulary words this time. Complex calculus, geometric proofs, algorithmic theories, and fluid dynamics. My brain expanded, rewiring itself in real time. I felt a nosebleed threatening to start, but I forced it down. "Do it," I whispered, staring directly into Alex's eyes. "What?" Mr. Johnson barked. "Do it," I repeated louder. I walked over to the teacher's desk, swept Mr. Johnson's graded papers onto the floor, and sat in his leather chair. "Print the Olympiad qualifier. The one you keep locked in your hard drive for the advanced team. Print it right now. If I can't score a 90% or higher in half the allotted time, I will voluntarily drop out of this school." Ms. Davis gasped. "Sarah, don't be rash." But I continued, ignoring her. "If I do it, Alex and Emma have to stand in front of the entire school at tomorrow's morning assembly and read a public apology admitting they conspired to frame me." Alex laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. "Fine. You're digging your own grave." Mr. Johnson, eager to put me in my place, didn't hesitate. The printer whirred to life. 10 pages of the most brutal mathematical problems the state board had to offer. He slammed the packet onto the desk in front of me, along with a pencil. "You have 2 hours, Mr. Johnson," said grimly. "I won't need it," I replied. I didn't even read the first question fully. My hand just started moving. It was like I was possessed. I didn't need to calculate, I just knew. The formulas flowed from my pencil like water. Pages flipped loudly in the quiet office. Emma chewed her thumbnail down to the quick. Alex stood with his arms crossed, his foot tapping anxiously. 10 minutes passed. 20. At the 25-minute mark, I reached the final proof. It was a notoriously unsolvable trick question meant to weed out the tryhards from the prodigies. I wrote the theorem out, underlined it twice, and dropped the pencil. It clattered loudly against the wood. "Done," I said, leaning back in the chair. Mr. Johnson snatched the paper. He grabbed his red pen and the master answer key. He started grading. For the first page, his face was smug. By the third page, his frown deepened. By the 6th page, his hand was shaking. When he reached the final proof, the red pen slipped from his fingers and stained his khakis. "This," he whispered, his voice cracking. "This is impossible. You used an alternate proof for question 14. One that isn't even on the key, but it's mathematically sound." "What's the score, David?" Ms. Davis asked, stepping up behind him to look at the paper. 100, he breathed. "A perfect score." Alex ripped the paper from Mr. Johnson's hands, scanning it frantically. No. No. This is a trick. She memorized it. She must have broken into your computer. Are you listening to yourself, Alex?" Ms. Davis said, her voice dripping with disgust. "First, she hacks the security cameras. Now she's a master cyber thief? When does it end? She's a student. And clearly, she's a gifted one that we have severely neglected." I stood up slowly. I looked at Alex and Emma. They looked like cornered animals. "Tomorrow morning," I said, my voice echoing in the silent office. "Assembly. Don't be late." I didn't go back to class. I walked out of the school gates, feeling the warm afternoon sun on my face. For the first time in my life, my chest wasn't tight with anxiety. The system was supposed to make me a victim of everyone's cruelty. But cruelty, I was learning, requires imagination. People love to build elaborate hypothetical scenarios to justify their hatred. Even if she gets rich, even if she gets pretty, even if she saves the world, she'll still be garbage. All I had to do was let them hate me. Let them gossip. Let them build the pedestal I was going to stand on. That night, I didn't study. I logged onto the school's anonymous gossip forum. The threads were already blowing up. Emma had clearly been doing damage control, spinning wild narratives. I clicked on a thread titled, "WDF happened in the office today?" Anonymous 1. "I heard Sarah cheated again and got caught." Anonymous 2. "No, Emma was crying in the bathroom. She said Sarah blackmailed Mr. Johnson." MS_fan. "Sarah is a psycho. I bet she's only acting cocky because she thinks she can get a scholarship. Even if the principal gives her a full ride to Ivy League prep tomorrow, she'll still be poor white trash with zero connections." I smiled in the dark glow of my monitor. "Thank you, Emma." Host truth system activated. Executing conditional requirements. The next morning, the school was buzzing like a disturbed hornet's nest. I walked through the hallways, and the parting of the sea was real. People whispered, pointed, and glared. I didn't lower my head like I used to. I kept my chin up, my posture straight. I was called to the principal's office before first period. Principal Higgins, a man who had literally never spoken to me in 3 years, stood up so fast his chair rolled into the wall. Beside him sat a woman in a sharp designer suit, holding a leather briefcase. "Sarah?" Principal Higgins beamed, sweating profusely. "Please sit down. This is Ms. Vance, an admissions director from the Vanguard Ivy League Preparatory Academy." Ms. Vance offered a crisp smile. "Sarah, your performance on the Olympiad qualifier yesterday was flagged in our national database, a system we monitor for prodigies. A perfect score in 25 minutes is unprecedented. We are prepared to offer you a full ride scholarship, immediate transfer, and a stipend for living expenses." "Thank you," I said smoothly, taking the paperwork. "But I'll be declining." Principal Higgins nearly choked on his own spit. Sarah, be reasonable. This is Vanguard. I'm staying here," I said, looking at Higgins. "I have unfinished business. But Ms. Vance, I would like to keep this offer open. Say, for the end of the semester?" Ms. Vance looked amused. Bold. "I like it. The offer stands until June, Sarah." I left the office and headed to the gymnasium for the morning assembly. The bleachers were packed. The murmurs died down as I walked across the polished wood floor and stood by the bleachers. Principal Higgins took the microphone. He looked deeply uncomfortable. He cleared his throat. "Before we begin our announcements, 2 of our students have requested to make a statement." Alex and Emma walked up to the podium. Emma looked like she hadn't slept. Alex looked like he wanted to murder someone. Emma took the mic first. Her voice shook. I lied. I didn't see Sarah cheat. I made it up because I was jealous of her score. I'm sorry. The gem erupted into gasps. Emma handed the mic to Alex, as if it burned her. Alex gripped the stand, his knuckles white. He refused to look at me. I corroborated Emma's lie. I didn't see anything. I apologized to Sarah and the faculty. He stepped down fast, trying to escape the stage, but the damage was done. The golden boy had admitted to lying to destroy a classmate. The whispers that followed him back to his seat weren't filled with admiration anymore. They were filled with suspicion. As the assembly dismissed, Alex intercepted me in the hallway. He cornered me against the lockers, his arm blocking my path. You think you've won? He hissed, dropping the gentleman act entirely. You think humiliating me makes you special? You're a freak, Sarah. I don't know how you're doing this, but I'm going to ruin you. Even if you somehow become the most popular, untouchable person in the city, even if my own parents bow down to you, I will always know you're a fraud. My heart pounded, not with fear, but with adrenaline. He had just handed me the keys to the kingdom. Host truth system activated. Condition, even if you somehow become the most popular, untouchable person in the city. Condition, even if my own parents bow down to you. Nasty premise. I will always know you're a fraud. Executing conditional requirements. Over the next 2 months, my life became a masterclass in the surreal. It started small. An interview I did for the local paper about my math score went viral. Suddenly, I had thousands of followers online. Then, a tech startup CEO saw my Olympiad proof and hired me as a freelance algorithm consultant. The paycheck had 6 zeros. I didn't buy flashy clothes. I didn't buy a car. I bought information. I hired a private intelligence firm to look into the untouchable families of my high school. Specifically, Alex's family. His father was a real estate mogul. Emma's mother was a city zoning commissioner. It didn't take a genius to figure out why Alex and Emma were always together. It also didn't take long for the private investigators to find the offshore accounts, the bribes, and the falsified permits. Meanwhile, at school, I was a ghost who ruled the halls. I didn't have to lift a finger. The rumor mill did the work for me. Every time a jealous student tried to take me down a peg, they inadvertently leveled me up. Even if she suddenly becomes a martial arts expert, she's still ugly. I woke up with the muscle memory of a black belt, and my posture naturally aligned, clearing my skin and giving me an effortless, striking presence. Even if she buys the whole school, nobody will truly love her. I legally purchased the land the school sat on through a shell company. I was untouchable, and I was waiting for the perfect moment to drop the hammer. That moment came during the end-of-year senior gala. It was a massive, opulent event hosted at the country club owned by Alex's father. I wasn't invited, naturally, which is exactly why I showed up. I wore a sleek, midnight blue gown that cost more than Mr. Johnson's yearly salary. When I walked into the ballroom, the string quartet literally faltered. Conversations died. Alex, wearing a custom tuxedo, marched toward me, his face twisted in fury. Emma trailed behind him, looking terrified. Who let you in? Alex demanded loudly, drawing the attention of the parents and VIPs in the room. His father, Richard, a tall, imposing man, stepped up behind his son. Is there a problem here, Alex? Richard asked, sizing me up. She's trespassing, Alex spat. Throw her out. Actually, I said, my voice projecting clearly across the silent room. I'm a premium member. I bought a platinum share of the club this morning. I held up the black metal keycard. Richard's eyes narrowed. Who are you? She's nobody, Dad. Alex yelled, losing his composure. She's a psycho from my school who's obsessed with me. She's faked everything. Her grades, her money, everything. I smiled. A cold, practiced smile. I reached into my clutch and pulled out a manila envelope. I handed it to Richard. I'm the nobody who found the wire transfers between your Cayman Island accounts and Emma's mother, I said sweetly. The bribes for the waterfront zoning permits. The FBI has had a copy for about 3 hours now. I imagine they're pulling up to the valet stand right about now. Right on cue, the heavy oak doors of the ballroom burst open. Men and women in dark windbreakers with FBI printed in yellow letters flooded the room. Panic erupted. Richard dropped the envelope. The glossy photos of bank statements scattered across the marble floor. He looked at me in absolute horror. You, Richard choked out. Dad, what is this? Alex demanded, grabbing his father's arm. Quiet. Richard snapped, his face pale. He looked at me, then at the feds advancing across the room. His survival instinct kicked in. He literally dropped to his knees, his hands trembling. Please, whoever you are, whatever you want, we can make a deal. I'll give you anything. Alex stared at his father, kneeling before me. The great Richard Sterling, begging a teenager. Alex's mind broke. He fell back, pointing a shaking finger at me. "You're a demon," he screamed over the chaos. "Even if you destroy my family, even if you take everything, you're still just a lonely, pathetic villain who the universe is punishing." I looked down at him. My heart was perfectly still. "You're right, Alex," I whispered, stepping over his father's kneeling form. "I am the villain." Suddenly, a mechanical chime echoed in my head. A sound I hadn't heard in months. System recharge complete. Booting up host truth system. Scanning host status. Error. Error. Host is currently a multimillionaire, mathematical genius, martial arts expert, and majority shareholder of local real estate. Host is not suffering. Analyzing logs. The system's voice, usually cold and mechanical, actually sounded bewildered. "Host, what did you do?" "I used the power you gave me," I thought back, smiling as the FBI clapped handcuffs on Alex's father and Emma's mother. "You said mean words come true. You just forgot that an insult is a two-part sentence. But you're supposed to be a tragic supporting character." "Not anymore," I replied, turning my back on the screaming, crying elite of my high school. I walked toward the exit, the sea of feds and panicked rich people parting for me just like the students in the hallway did. I'm the final boss now. I walked out into the cool night air, the red and blue sirens painting the country club in a chaotic, beautiful light. The Vanguard Academy offer was waiting on my desk at home. A tech empire was waiting for my next algorithm. And an entire world of arrogant, cruel people was waiting out there, completely unaware that all they had to do to give me the world was try to tear me down. I looked up at the stars, took a deep breath, and laughed.